Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about how I learn languages. So I have all my notes right here, and we're going to talk about basically the tricks that I use, the tips that maybe I can give you guys, some of the activities that I do, and some of the resources that I really like and I find that are very helpful for me to learn languages. Now, the languages that I am learning currently are Spanish, Portuguese, French, and German. Now, Spanish and Portuguese, I actually have, classes, and Portuguese is a language that I'm very familiar with and I can speak fluently. I mean, I'm not a native speaker, that's why I still learn, but I lived in Brazil, and when I came back, I continued studying. Now, Spanish is one that I've always studied during my life, but now I'm teaching myself French and German, and those are a bit harder, and I'm teaching them myself. And so a lot of these tips are going to be related to teaching yourself a language. So I want to start out with what apps that I personally use to learn languages. The apps that I really enjoy are Duolingo, Quizlet, Spanish Dict or Spanish Dictionary, and then I have a site that's conjugação.com.br. So conjugação.com.br. And that's not really an app. I'm not sure if there's an app, but I always use the site instead. Now, Duolingo. This is a great companion to your classes. It's really not a great way to learn a language just on its own, because it just doesn't have enough information and enough lessons. You don't have anybody to speak with. You don't, have videos or movies or large books to read. You don't get that cultural experience. Having your teacher that speaks the native language and can share with you some things that come with the language, as in culture. With Duolingo, you can learn simple phrases and words that are very important, like, sister, brother, come, go, help. Those are very basic things. You can also learn simple grammar concepts, like past tense, future tense, present tense, irregular verbs, and especially on the site, so the website and not the mobile version, there are lots of tips. So there's actually a page that you can open before starting the lesson, and it goes over a lot of the grammar concepts, or maybe perhaps cultural concepts, or something that's much more in depth about what you're going to learn. I enjoy it because it's great to also find patterns in the language, and those are really helpful. Oh wow, I can see how all the verbs are conjugated the same way. There's a pattern you can find out. Or, oh, I see that this word and combined with this word to make this word. And it's just a way that you can see those patterns and start to apply what you learned to the language itself as well. Quizlet, simple, everyone knows Quizlet. It's just a great place to find flashcard decks that people have already made of, perhaps irregular verbs or some phrases or conjunctions or whatever that maybe might be difficult for you. And you can also make your own. I never do. I always find other people's. Spanish Dictionary. This is very helpful for me learning Spanish because it, offers verb conjugations in all the tenses. It has information sheets with examples for grammar concepts, and it has quite a lot of examples and activities you can do after you learn the grammar or whatever. So, oh, now you know what subjunctive is or whatever. And now you can do these activities where you have to conjugate a word, or conjugate the verb, or something like that, right? And then it has a translator option, and sometimes I think it's better than Google Translate because it's just focused on Spanish. Conjugação.com.br. It's just basically the same thing as Spanish Dictionary, but for the Portuguese language, though unfortunately it does not have a translation option. And I will be linking all of these in the description below. What are the activities that I do? Okay, I have lots of activities that I like to do. I think they're pretty fun. So the first one that I have written down here is reading aloud. Now, it really helps with, comprehension and pronunciation, and I can hear the words that I say, and I can be like, oh wow, I definitely did not pronounce that the correct way. Here, I have grabbed a bunch of books that I use to read aloud. So here's one, just example, it's in Spanish, Gregor de las Altas Tierras, or de las Tierras Altas. And as you can see here, it's, completely in Spanish. And I just read this out loud to myself. So it's like a young adult book. And so it's kind of easy to read. It's not super complex, doesn't have very dark or complex themes in it. And so it's a good book to read. I have two textbooks in Portuguese. Now these are very important because they provide like more academic vocabulary and more professional way of saying things. And so while I can, read, like some newspaper article or some gossip site article in Portuguese, these are great for learning more academic words. This book here is much more adult than this one because I like reread passages over and over again. But it's The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And I will like put this book down below as well because it has good sections that you can like, oh, I read one chapter, which is like 3 pages. Lastly, I have, old German grammar book. And this is in English, but it has a lot of German text. And while I'm not that far in German, it has some that I can understand. And then I have this big book of German vocab. And it has like pictures and everything, which is really important. And these are just a small collection of the books that I have. I know. Some people don't have these books. That's why there's a site called lingua.com. And it has text from like the A1 level to like B2 level of like fluency or language comprehension or whatever for around 9 languages. The site has Portuguese, Spanish, German, French, Italian, and I think a few others, maybe Czech. This has, like I said, texts and audio, so you can work on your reading comprehension and listening, understanding and comprehension as well. And I will be linking this below. I speak out loud to myself, so I just narrate what I'm doing. So, for example, eu estou gravando um vídeo. Estou gravando, filmando um vídeo para mi canal. So I'm like just saying, oh, I'm filming a video for my YouTube channel, you know what I mean? And it's just narrating stuff. And so I'll be like, I'm gonna open this drawer. I'm gonna get a cup. I don't know, I have cups in a drawer for this example, but I do. And it's pretty easy. I also just like have conversations with myself, and this is a great way to like practice having a conversation out loud, but also not really going anywhere that you don't know. Because if you have a conversation with yourself, you're controlling that conversation, and no one's gonna ask you something that you don't know the answer to, or that you don't know how to say. And so like it works on pronunciation and like, creating these ideas, but you're not gonna it's not gonna be super difficult. It's just some good practice. One other thing that I used to do was labels. I don't do it now because I'm not in like my, home. I live in an apartment. I don't really want to label a bunch of stuff. It's not mine. But to learn Portuguese, I did this. So I would like, place just labels of the vocab in my house. So I would always include the article as well, so I know if the word was like what gender the word was. But you don't have to if your language does not have gender. Or gendered words. So I basically just, put basic vocab, and every time I'd walk by it, I'd be like, oh, o tapete, the carpet, a televisão, the television. Once I learned the word, I would take the label off. And a lot of times I kept the labels because then I could like make flashcards out of it, so I wouldn't completely lose that vocab. I'd be able to like refresh every so often. And then I like podcasts. So there's so many different podcasts out there for like every single language, for every single level of learner for the language, every single way to learn. There's some people who really just talk in the language about things in their country. There's others that are like, here's this grammar concept, here's some examples, blah, 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 blah. And so I just like to explore the different podcasts. There is one podcast that if you're interested in learning Portuguese, I so think is very important. It's one of the best that I've heard. It's for like moderate or intermediate Portuguese learners. It's called Fala Gringo, and it's with this guy named Lenny. And I will link that to the Spotify one in the bio of this video. Now, the last activity that I do is I like to watch a lot of YouTube and Netflix in my target language, be it Portuguese, Spanish, French, or German. So what I like to do is switch between educational videos and then like just regular YouTubers, because I get to see the grammar concepts and these irregular verbs and these blah 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 blah. So be it, but in a very structured educational way, and then apply what I've learned to these other videos. I'm like, oh my goodness, I understand. I just learned that concept, or I just learned that word, and I just heard that guy say it. And then I can also hear how a native speaker actually speaks, you know what I mean? It's not somebody speaking slowly, it's somebody speaking quite fast, using slang, and that's a great way to learn or kind of immerse yourself as well into your target language. If you're new to learning, whatever language, you're not really going to understand a lot of what people say in just a regular YouTube video. Sometimes they have, closed captions or actual subtitles, but I would definitely still watch them because they're a great way to like really actively listen and like pick up some words. And it's, you know, it might not be super fun at the start, but once you start to like, you know, pick out those words and hear the different sounds and everything, it's going to be great because you're going to be able to absorb or, you know, watch all this other content in another language. Now, Netflix. I love Netflix. I watch Netflix all the time. A lot of Netflix originals, they're in a bunch of different languages because they're available to quite many people. Netflix is a great resource as well for learning, but make sure to keep the audio and the subtitles of whatever you're watching in your target language, because if one of them is in English, be it the audio or the subtitles, you're going to focus on that and not the language that you're trying to learn. It's kind of a way to be like, oh, I'm learning a language, but no, you're not. You're just, you know, watching this show with subtitles. You're not paying attention to the language you're wanting to learn. If you go into to watch something on Netflix and it doesn't have anything, it like doesn't have the target language, you may need to go into the account settings and actually like change the language on the Netflix account to per se like Persian or I don't know, Czech. And then when you go back, you may be able to access subtitles and audio, like dubbed audio, for Czech or Persian, and then maybe the languages that kind of are similar or around the same region. Because I had to do that to get Portuguese on a lot of different things, because normally it doesn't show it. It just shows like French and English. But once I changed the language of just my account on Netflix, it gave me Portuguese and all these different options. So, just to touch back on YouTube, there are several YouTube channels that I really like for learning the languages that I want to learn. So that's German, French, Portuguese, and Spanish. So for French, I like Easy French, basically like talking to actual French people in the streets, but there's subtitles in French, but they're also in English as well. And so like I can understand what's going on, but I can also focus on those French subtitles. And a lot of times they speak about what are good phrases tourists need to know? How do I use this verb? So they'll have videos about one verb and they like talk about all the conjugations. And then for German, Easy German is the same as Easy French, except for German. Now for Portuguese, there's a great professor, and her name is Marcia Macedo, and her channel is Portuguese com Marcia Macedo. And she has subtitles in Spanish and English. And she just has a bunch of great resources for people learning Portuguese. Now, these two channels are like regular YouTuber channels, but they're really popular and they're just really good for learning either Spanish or Portuguese because you just hear a native speaker. So, Coisa de Nerd, like nerd thing, it's a couple and they're from Brazil, and so they speak a lot in Portuguese, but they're always making content with all these different types of things. And so you can hear about like money, or games, or vlogging in Portuguese. And then Luisito Comunica is one that I use to learn Spanish, and he's like, I think one of the most popular, or the most popular YouTuber from Mexico. And he's amazing. So I watch him a lot just to like hear somebody speaking Spanish. Those are all the things that I use to learn languages. I really hope you guys have enjoyed. If you guys have any other tricks, tips, activities, whatever that you use to learn a language and that I didn't talk about, would you please leave it in the comments below, and then maybe I could talk about it in another video as well. But I just want this to be a great place where we can all, you know, talk about learning languages and kind of learn languages together. I really hope you enjoyed the video that I made and the content that I produce. If you really enjoy it, please subscribe. You can like this video and leave me a comment down below talking about what you'd like to see next. So thank you guys all for watching. Ciao!